Hey, it's Del Jackson. It's Wednesday, so it's got to be LO Hoops Day. I mean, Andy's got his LO Hoops gear on. I think I got some LO Hoops gear on. We'll have to see what Coach Ramos brings to the table today for gear, but I'm telling you right now, Coach, Andy's going to want some tornado gear before this is all done. So that's going on. We're very, very happy to have Coach Freddy Ramos. He's been so good to us in the last couple of years. We've gone in and we've done a live game with him, and he's always very, very gracious to us after a game, and I enjoy just being around him and the kids and the really the love that I see from the McCaskey players and the coaching staff and the community. So we'll start with Coach, and Coach, give us just a little bit of short background because I know we got some good topics tonight. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so I guess first off, I'm not wearing LL Hoops gear. I'm sorry, but I got my Sugar Cup gear on.
Nice.
So now I'm going into my third season here at McCaskey. 24th season coaching basketball. Started, coaching rec, CYO, travel ball. Probably, more recently, I, before coming over to McCaskey, I was over with Coach Clazis over there on the Atlanta Catholic, and I think it's exciting going into my third season. We've been going the right direction, and then the world changes. So it's kind of what's in a nutshell where I'm at right now.
Let me ask you this, because you have a unique perspective on Lancaster Catholic, boom, and McCaskey, boom, and it's kind of like two worlds, but yet those worlds they intersect a little bit. So can you tell me offhand, like, the differences between the two programs?
Yeah, so I'd say probably, biggest thing is me. I'm not at Lancaster Catholic anymore. No, I think, we do have differences in how we play. I think, one thing that's great in the relationship I have with Coach Clazis is we have a lot of similarities also in how we run our programs. And what I mean by that is really fundamentally driven, defensive driven, and strong values and I'd say player-coach relationship along the way. So I think besides that, we don't have, similarities in how our programs are run outside of those core values. We're different. We have our kids don't all have the same what do you call it? They have a lot of multi-sport kids because of being a smaller school, where we have a mix of everything. So, even our off seasons don't always look the same. We'll work out together, but as coaches, Joey and I, we have to be selective because of those differences to make sure that we can get a good workout together when we do that.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and then I'm going to turn it over to Andy. So you mentioned it's your third year. I've gotten to see you up close and personal. In fact, sometimes I sit at daggone score table so I can kind of see you walking up and down the floor, and I can hear the other things. What has changed for you from the first time that you walked onto that McCaskey court as a head coach to going into your third year? I mean, what has changed for you personally?
Yeah, I think probably I'm a little more relaxed, I guess, because I'm able to rely on my staff more every day. So I think, first time coming in, I wanted to do a lot, and so I've been, probably my blessing there was I surrounded myself, with really good people and a good staff around me that was really able to take whatever I'd give them. But I'd say now at this point, I'm giving more to my staff. So.
Okay, cool. All right, Andy, I'm going to turn it over to you, buddy. See what you got here from the player's point of view and from the media point of view from LO Hoops, man.
There you go. Hey, Coach, there's really not much of an argument that can be made with me in terms of you have the premier job in the entire conference as far as basketball is concerned. When I think of the McCaskey basketball coaching position, it kind of reminds me of that argument where, you know, people liken it to like college football and basketball coaches, and they say how they're sometimes the most influential people in their city or state or whatever the case may be. And I think, you know, I'm biased here coming from a sports world, obviously, but I think you could probably make the case that, you know, the head boys basketball coach McCaskey is maybe one of the top 5 most influential people in the city of Lancaster by and large. I mean, obviously you're a city guy, so you knew that going into taking the job, but I'm just curious, how has that, I mean, has that really shifted or grown from what you thought you'd be getting into initially now that you're a couple years in? And has anything changed given the last, you know, 2 weeks, week and a half with what we've seen all over the country?
Yeah, so I think good question. Yeah, so I think, you know, coming into to this community, you know, and program, it for me it was just really personal. You know, wanting to be, you know, at McCaskey and wanting to be responsible for the basketball program. And I say that because, you know, having coached for years, I mentioned earlier, 24, you know, we all love this game for a reason. You know, it's great. It brings people together, and we're together right now, and there'll be people together watching this, and all of those are connected people, and it's all because of basketball. So at McCaskey, and being a kid who grew up in Lancaster, who lives in the city and just loves it, loves walking, I wanted to be the coach in my town. And yeah, I knew, you know, definitely that it is a position that does get attention. And, you know, I've always tried to show good character and integrity, Andy. So I think going into this, I knew that I'd have to be humble, thick-skinned, right? And at the same time, just constantly listen more than I spoke, you know. And so it's helped me here recently, you know, especially I think, you know, racial injustice has come to such a forefront right now. And it came through unfortunate situations that they make me angry, and they make a lot of us angry. And you know, within our program, it's something that isn't new to us. Unfortunately, it's something that in my short time going into my 3rd season, we had to talk about as a group on buses. So I think right now with our kids, you know, it's important that we allow them and encourage them to have a voice. And we've had kids downtown protesting, you know, and it's okay. It's good. It's important to have a voice. So as a team, last week, you know, I'll just share you know, our weekly Zoom, because we had a conversation, and at the end of it, it was just great for everybody to understand that it's good to express yourself. Why not now? And at the same time, you know, we always are going to be responsible in everything we do, right? And, you know, so we keep those things in mind, but also everybody expresses themselves in a different way. And that's okay too, as long as we're always proud of what we did, and it's something we're not afraid to talk about openly, you know? So I think, you know, you know, there's some anger. There's some, you know, there's different avenues right now that our kids and all of us are venting frustration, but we're expressing ourselves right now, you know? So, you know, seeing our kids downtown has made me proud, because they're acting way beyond their years and being responsible young men, and showing that at such a young age that they do have a voice in this community. And you know, everybody's hope here is that it continues to be heard and that there's action behind it. So, you know, coming into this job and in this city, and you know, I work for the Boys and Girls Club of Lancaster. I'm the director of operations, so I'm right downtown. It makes me proud, Andy. It really does. So it extends beyond, just being the McCaskey, boys varsity coach. It goes into the city, the community, and just everywhere our kids extend into, right? Because, as a coach, that's where you touch the most, that group. We're fortunate to be able to talk about it together, and it's unfortunate that we have to talk about it, that it's gotten this bad. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks. I mean, that's very candid and very truthful and from the heart, I can tell. So thank you very much. I mean, that's a fantastic answer, and I'm a better person for listening to that for sure. Something I wanted to touch on, what Dell already talked to you about, but you have what I call the premier job, and you come from arguably 1A in terms of premier programs, coming across a couple blocks from Catholic.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before with some of the other coaches, but obviously Section 1 is just an entirely different beast. It just is.
Oh, yeah.
And the general public will always look at Section 1, and whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, they're going to use Section 1 as a barometer for the league as a whole. If Section 1 is down, they assume the entire league is down, which obviously is not always true, but that's just the way people measure it. I'm wondering, he already talked about the jump from Catholic to McCaskey, but now that you've come from both worlds of I guess it was the old Section 4 to now the new Section 1, obviously, is the drop in competition really as alarming as maybe the general public seems to think, between like Section 1 to 2 down to 3 and 4? Because again, people are going to look at the newspaper or Ella Hoops and look at the schedule and see, McCaskey and Hempfield are playing tonight, and yeah, I know Elko might be 20-2, but I don't really believe in them or whatever. I mean, you've really seen the entire gamut of the league. I mean, how do you assess what the product is of the LL League from literally 1 to 5?
Yeah, I think I think of course we're in sections because of our size, right? So that plays the biggest impact there. So what does that do? That influences our numbers. So what happens then is as you have runs of talent coming through your program, I guess the bigger you are, right? The more runs you can have. So I say that being I think being aware of how the process is, and making sure also that that we understand that there's teams. When I was at Lancaster Catholic, we won a league title. My first year. So, you do have those runs. I think, for me, a big difference is within our program at McCaskey is our practices look different. The drills we do, look different because of our skill and how we're built. Our systems, our philosophy look different. I'd never be able to pick up another program and place it in our school and say this is going to work. It doesn't work like that, for us. So I think the biggest thing I've learned about the differences is how to adapt yourself and the program to make sure that you're putting in your schemes, your philosophies, your staff, in a way that most I would say most fits that school environment. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, and it's great when I sit with other coaches, and just talk about how we run our program. I do it regularly with Coach Clazes and Coach Lambert, and it's just unique, and just there's things that they wouldn't be able to do, and vice versa. So I'd say that's probably the biggest difference. In the end, you've got 5 kids on the court, right? So you're going 7, 8 deep. That changes, but I guess so you might be a little deeper one end versus the other, but we're really different in how we get to the court.
Yeah. Another Catholic and McCaskey question I have for you, if I can get one more. We saw last year, obviously, that the appetite for Catholic and McCaskey will never, ever go away. There's always going to be a hunger to see that game. I'm just curious now that, again, you're coming from both sides of the fence. how do you kind of view that rivalry? I know we talked with Coach Smith at Lebanon at Crest about the Lebanon rivalry he has, and it was kind of, maybe it's a little bit too much right now. I mean, what do you think about that? You rather keep it the way as is, where, let the cards fall where they may, and if you guys meet up, whether it's in quarters or semis or whatever, at least that'll happen and it'll be of the highest stakes possible? Or do you look at a situation like last year and say, again, geez, there's really going to be an appetite for this. Maybe we can do a home and home in prime time on a Saturday night in January? Or where do you kind of assess a possible Catholic and McCaskey series?
Yeah, so I'll say, number one, I am McCaskey 100%. If I cut myself right now, you're going to see a black shirt and you're going to see even more red. All right, so that's about as natural as you could get. It was a great atmosphere last year. Did not like the outcome. Wanted to kick their, what. I think it was back to that atmosphere. It was good. We had so many students there, so many families from both schools. You were there. It was unreal. Seeing some of our first responders there that came to watch as well and show support was just great to see. I'll say also, I think one of the things that made that so unique of an atmosphere is it happened naturally. So I'm more a fan of that. I like the idea, of us playing regularly. But right now, the way that districts are built, it's really difficult to be flexible and to be able to play those games without considering, that point when guess what, last year, was a good sign of that. We're trying to make the playoffs. So we want to make sure that, that our schedule is friendly enough within those power rankings that it doesn't hurt us at all. And so it kind of exposes us a little more there. I think that's something I always have to think about, because like I said, it's, if I cut myself, what do you see? So got to think about that. But I think games like that are great when points aren't considered, like last year, and it happens naturally. If you talk to Coach Blazers, since you're bringing them up so much, you'll hear a completely different answer. He wants to play, like you said, a home and away every year.
Yeah. Hey, the other thing I wanted to ask you, this is kind of a question we would normally ask of a first-year coach, but as you said, you're going into your third year, but I'm going to ask it anyway. In a perfect world, what does a Freddy Ramos McCaskey team look like on the floor and off the floor?
Yeah. So honestly, I think you're looking at it. I think on the floor we'll always take more wins. Off the floor, there's nothing I want to change. I think guess what? We work with kids. So kids do great things. Sometimes they're knuckleheads. Even, a lot of those things you kind of grow to expect it, to deal with. It's why you do what you do, So I think, a perfect team for us, guess what? We're going to win a state title, every single time, I think off the floor, we're going to be excellent students by that. I mean, this is a team full of honor roll kids that get to pick whatever they do, leaving the program. Yeah, guess what? That's who we are perfectly. I think, that's one kind of label of it. The other one is we'll still take the state championship, but I won't change a thing of us outside the floor.
I got you. Boss man, what you got for him?
I got a couple things here. Let's piggyback on the enthusiasm at the playoff games, but I mean, I saw some good games at McCaskey this year, and Coach, I was totally impressed by your fan base. Now, my question is, have you done anything to increase that, or is it just your players just being good guys and getting people involved, or is your administration pushing things? I mean, I went to games 5 years ago, and I could come in and sit wherever I wanted. I didn't have to worry about sitting at the scorer's table back in my little corner. So what has changed?
Yeah. So our culture, honestly, our culture around our basketball program, and it has, you always improve, so for us, guess what? We've gotten to the point where our motto, it is one tornado, one family. It's on It's on the back of my shirt right now. You can see it. You know?
Nice.
That's actually, and seriously, that's who we are. So what it's done and what that means, Dale, is we are one tornado. We the red tornado, and the bigger we are, or the bigger our community, the more people we have around us that want to be around us, the bigger our tornado. So that's really what one tornado, one family means. It's something that I brought into our program because I believe in it, and we believe in it, and our school believes in it. And so as a result of that, it's been great. We have students coming out this past season. We got buses for our kids because so many of them wanted to travel and just wanted to get to a game. And so we said, guess what? Let's get them there. So, we worked with our, with our booster club, and our school supported us along the way for us to be able to provide that opportunity for them to come, and they did. And our school administrators they're at every game. You've been to so many home games. They wear red, and they're fans. So they're not there to work, and they're there to cheer us on. And I think a lot of that is the way we've extended our basketball program to where we try to show everybody who we are more outside the court than on it.
I'll tell you, as a quote older coach way back when in the days in the 80s and the 90s, I always appreciated going into McCaskey, not because there was a lot of fans at that point, but the people in the stands really knew basketball. Like they really know the game. It's not, we would play Reading, and it would be a different, just like everything was crazy, it's crazy. But I think the fans, at least the older fans here at McCaskey, they really know basketball. I used to, my boy was going up through the rec, and they would know who could play and who couldn't, and they would know the refs' names, and the refs would know the parents' name. And it just seems to me that's a really cool thing about Lancaster City as compared to other big schools that I've seen. I just throw that out. You and I talked a little bit before we got on the air. You want to talk about a little bit about the PIAA and what's going on with them and what's your feelings?
Yeah. So, hey, Dale, you're right about the fans on basketball. It is our alumni. It's everybody else, and it's great. I remember, quick story here. My first year, we're playing at Penn Manor. It was the second time playing each other, and one of our alumni comes up to me and gives me a scouting report on a JV player, and I'm like getting ready to go in the locker room with the varsity guys. And so I was great, and the best thing was I ran over to the JV coach and said, "Hey, what? I don't know, we'll say number 15 or whatever, But afterwards, it's just great to just see these guys that they're that gung ho, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Good stuff. How about the PIAA? What's your thoughts? What's going on from your world? Like Andy and I are watching it from the peripheral, but you're in it. You're living it. You're in it, and things have changed like within the last 2 weeks from when we interviewed a couple other coaches.
Yeah. So I think one thing for from a school perspective, we're still getting those plans together. Nobody expected this announcement to come out for for kids to be able to go out and play tomorrow. So we've got to wait for those things to get put in place. I think I've definitely been watching it closely. So I'm ahead of it, and I'm only so because I'm the director of operations, Boys and Girls Club. So we're opening the clubs back up. So I've had to be well versed and make sure our staff is on the guidelines coming out. And there are similarities between the two. I'd say probably, biggest thing right now is, you can't have groups together of more than 25. You can't share water bottles. You can't have a communal water container with disposable cups. And you got to have, practices in place, so you've got to screen, upon entering. You have to monitor. You need to have plans in place if somebody's sick or not. And so, all those things you can do now, in yellow. And then as you move to green, your group sizes go up. It's probably the thing that sticks out the most, where you go from 25 to 250. You can start having spectators in green, so from a basketball program's perspective at McCaskey, we know what we need to do. You know, we'll have our documentation, our program documentation ready and submitted by tomorrow morning. And then it's a matter of, you know, that will be collected by the school, then, you know, then make sure that as a program, we're adhering to those guidelines. But, you know, we just talked about it. We had a weekly Zoom call before we got together tonight. And to see what players, my message is, if you're comfortable and your family's comfortable, come on out. And if not, don't. And if somebody isn't comfortable, it's okay. You know, so, you know, that's kind of one thing when you start together. You want to make sure that you don't have pressure to the point that you put somebody in an uncomfortable situation. Because of course, in the game of basketball, you got to be ready. Yes, if you're a little ginger, you're going to get hurt. You know, so, you know, there's a safety concern there also outside of just COVID, is if your mindset isn't there because of it, you know, we want you to be home until you're comfortable. But I'm excited to get back in. This has sucked being removed from everything. So,
Hey, Coach, you talked about your Zoom meetings with your players. I'm just kind of curious, what is your structure for that? I mean, you have 12 or 15 guys on the screen. Is it like you have a structure that you're going to go through, or is it like there's some time just to talk and share? How do you structure your Zoom meetings with your players?
Yeah, so, you know, I mentioned earlier about just, you know, about being adaptable, right? So, you know, going through this process, I mean, I remember, you know, the 1 week, you know, there was a kid who hadn't been outside in just over a month, like even outside to get mail. So you got to be a little cautious and sensitive, right? You know, to the group you have in front of you. So I've been really careful not to make a Zoom meeting a workout, but making sure that they have workouts available. You know what I mean? You know,
Yes.
from us. So we haven't gotten into group stuff, but no, our agenda honestly has been more just seeing each other's faces, being able to talk. A lot of times right now, from what I'm learning about social media, they do these videos, I think it's Snapchat or TikTok, but there's no back and forth interaction. There's no dialogue. So, you know, I really looked at our Zoom meetings to just be that, just, you know, get on each other a little bit, whatever. It's all right. We're all just talking. And, you know, there's been some of that too. Guys, you know, busted on each other's performance in certain games and that, but it's all in good spirit and just kind of, you know, so it's more about just being together and having conversation. You know, we had a really good conversation I mentioned earlier last week. So I think just that, having that getaway, you know, be it once, twice a week. We're going once a week. Just be able to kind of just talk in a way that you might not always in other situations around other people than you do around your teammates. Openly, it's just been a good kind of outlet for guys. We go through periods though where coaches are just quiet and guys are just yapping, and you know, sometimes they'll make fun of, I'd say us, but I'll say my staff.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Hey, what Andy and I usually get into this with some coaches. What are your projections for your team in Section 1 down the road this coming year? And you know, you're building a program. You've been in it a couple of years. You kind of know who's good and who isn't, and you're building what's going on. So what are your thoughts going forward here? Open floor.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm feeling as though, you know, we've got a group of kids this year that coming up through, they've shared the ball a ton. Sometimes you want them to take action a little earlier, you know, but I think, you know, that's kind of a different way of growing, just showing a little more patience, right, on the offensive end. And, you know, this group right now is also, I think from a defensive perspective, you know, we're always going to have some guards, but they've really taken kind of pride either, you know, this past season, you know, or coming up through. So, you know, I think for us, we'll be probably a little more balanced. You know, last year I think, you know, teams are coming in keying on certain guys, so we'll be a little more balanced coming into this season. You know, I'm always going to want to play fast. You know, it's how we play. So I would expect us to be more of that. And I think now that, you know, we're in year 3 and the program has gone through our philosophy. You know, what are our decisions? The decisions you have to make after you pass the ball. You know, are you cut? Are you screen? Are you current? Do you have choice? So those are little things that within our program where you kind of get more freedom as you mature. So we're in year 3 of that. So I expect ideally, that more freedom means better decision making. So I would expect us to continue to have more. And I think even going into last year, we had more of that. I didn't rely on as many, I'd say, motions. We did more kind of read and with some principles behind that. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it. My concern, Dale, is the fact that nobody's been in the gym. So I think the one, I guess, good thing about it when you think about it is it's not just you.
Yeah, nobody else. Right. Everybody's in the same boat, Coach. I'm telling you right now, everybody's in the same boat. And for some guys, I think that's a good thing. I think some guys need a break, coaching wise. I know you're 3rd year in and you want to be there all the time, but I think as long as we can get going, I think it'll be okay. I really do. I really do.
Yeah.
Andy, we got a couple more minutes. You got anything else for Coach?
No, I don't have any questions. Only thing I want to say is for those, I mean, I've told some people this, but I grew up a McCaskey fan. McCaskey was the first team I loved. I followed them everywhere with Perry and Dustin, Akeem and Aquan and all those guys. I was one of those McCaskey groupies growing up. So that's something that never leaves. Obviously, I have a special appreciation for McCaskey in my heart. And I've said this before, they have the right guy in place with you. I truly believe that. I love what you're doing with the kids off the floor. I know we've talked about that privately. I think it's fantastic. Your heart's in the right place. You can obviously coach. Like I said, I think they hit a home run, and I think the sky's the limit. I certainly hope it is, because like I said, McCaskey will always have a special place in my heart. So now we just got to work on getting some of that gear. I mean, I'm
so after hearing that, Andy, what size are you?
Oh, there you go. See, I knew it.
XL.
You got it. You got it, man. You might get a whole wardrobe now.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Coach, that's the only reason Andy does these shows is so he can get a T-shirt for every. That's his goal, is to get a T-shirt for every team in the league. That's it. That's the only thing he wants, is he wants that $8 T-shirt. That's it.
Oh, it worked tonight.
In all sincerity, I could use a couple McCaskey shirts, because as soon as I get one, I will wear that out. I promise you that. I promise you.
You got it.
Nice.
Absolutely. We got you taken care of, Andy. Yeah,
Nice.
we'll even send you a set of matching one tornado, one family wristbands, all right?
Nice. Hey, I got a quick story before we go. I mean, Andy always corrects my spelling, and Coach says, hey, Del, it's not tornadoes. It's tornado. And I said, well,
right.
I was watching one game and it looked like 5 tornadoes running around out there on the floor, all buzzing around at the same time. So he liked that, and it's a good deal. And like I said, from my point of view, I get to go back, not in the locker room, but outside the locker room. And there's a lot of love going around at McCaskey, Coach. Keep up the good work. We'll put this up, and we're going to try to talk to some coaches, maybe like on a Sunday during the week, to kind of maybe break down a game or see where things are at. I think that's a good idea. I think that's going over pretty well here. That's the one nice thing about this, is we'd like to talk to coaches, and I know you're big, not big, but you've had a much bigger presence on the social media and getting the word out and pictures and stuff, and I'm sure the kids appreciate that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Coach. We'll see you.
Thanks for having me on, Dale. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, man.
Take care.
All right, be safe, Bob. Thanks.
See you.
Bye-bye.